What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Right Side, and welcome to another episode of The Right Report. Of course, over the past week, California has been absolutely devastated. Los Angeles, that is, with the horrible wildfires that have been going on. The Palisades, the Eaton fires, the Hearst fires, the Lydia fires, the Sunset fires, and now the Kenneth fires. This whole issue, and this whole event, this whole incident, this whole catastrophe has encapsulate a lot of things. But first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and everything that they have lost. These people have lost their homes, they've lost their cherished family items, things handed down from generations to generations. They've lost pets, they've lost loved ones. Things can be replaced, buildings can be replaced, goods can be replaced, but human lives cannot. And no matter if the federal government steps in and pays for all the damages, it doesn't negate or disprove the fact or get rid of the fact that this whole thing could have been avoided. This was a incident, a catastrophe that occurred out of sheer negligence and incompetence. Right off the bat, there has been warnings about something like this for years now. Trump yelled at Newsom years ago that something like this could happen. Firefighters were even warning about something like this happening, saying that all it took was the right wind at the right time, with the right dryness at the right time of the year, and all of LA could go up in flames, and the only thing that could stop it would be the ocean. The lack of brush clearing, of the dead wood and forestry and things like that at the bottom of the forest floor basically turns LA into a giant tinderbox. And the reason why Gavin doesn't do this is because it would step on the toes of the environmentalist lobby. There's no water in LA right now to fight these fires. The firefighters are reporting that they turn on the hydrants and they are bone dry. Mismanagement is a word that can be applied when someone makes a mistake. But when your policies and your decision making leads to an entire city being burnt down, essentially, it's a little bit more than mismanagement. It's complete negligence. It's not about making a bad decision. It's completely disregarding to face the issue in the first place. They have had multiple opportunities to build up water reservoirs, to save water in the instance of these things happening, but they don't, and they're not. They passed a bill in 2014, I believe, 10 years ago. The citizens voted on a ballot initiative to save water, to build these reservoirs with water, but it didn't happen. And Newsom just said it would begin construction this year. It's a complete disregard for your citizens, for your voters, and for those who are on the front lines fighting this. The conditions right now in California, in Los Angeles, are not good. As I said before, there's no water, but there's also hurricane-level winds. In some places, there's wind gusts of up to 100 miles an hour. That's category 2. The high winds are making it very easy for the fire to spread from tree to tree and from building to building. And there's obviously nothing you can do about the wind, but this fire is such a mix of everything, the stars aligning, everything coming together at the perfect time. Mix the lack of brush clearing with the lack of water, with the extreme winds and the extremely arid conditions, and you get an entire city just waiting for a spark to completely set the whole thing ablaze. There are many warning signs of this happening, very foreshadowing of this stuff happening, when you look at the fact that a lot of insurance companies are actually pulling their policies to the citizens in these areas. And I feel like I've gone into this before, but such my healthcare video, a lot of people get mad when these insurance companies do this type of stuff, but we also have to remember that these health insurance companies aren't charities. They're not in the business of losing money. If these companies are pulling their policies, and these are insurance companies that cover and insure wildfires, stuff like that, if they're pulling their policies, something's got to be up. Something's not right. And the fact that you have so many policies signed by Gavin Newsom into law that limit how much you can charge for policies. And all of these firefighters are coming out saying how vulnerable and how susceptible LA is to a giant wildfire. Something like this happening it's hard to watch. It's hard. It's heart-wrenching. It's so sad to see a beautiful city completely neglected and forgotten about and mistreated in the nicest way I can say that. The city of LA seems to have valued DEI over the lives of its citizens. There was one clip of an LA firefighter talking about the fact that, she's a woman and what happens if they can't, carry your husband out of a burning house. And their response to that was, well, maybe your husband shouldn't have gotten that situation in the first place. This is the direct product. There is direct result of DEI. It doesn't care about whether or not these people can get the job done. It doesn't care about meritocracy. It doesn't care about skills. It doesn't care about talent. All it cares about is stupid labels that mean absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's an ideology. It's a cult of the self, of narcissism, of worshiping the things you cannot control in your own life. That's what DEI is. It's about division and oppression, this pseudo-oppression. It's about solving inequities with state-enforced equal outcomes. And it's all about wanting to create an atmosphere of people who look like each other. Excuse me? Everything about this LA fire is tragic. And those online, a lot of them are pointing out that these are rich people. And why should we care? These are all rich people. Why are we pretending like we care? They had this coming, yada, yada, yada. Those people are disgusting. The exact same I said about those who celebrated Luigi Mangione when he shot the United Healthcare CEO. This Marxist ideology, this Marxist cult, villainizes being economically successful. It worships oppression. It demonizes those who have what others don't. Listen, it doesn't matter how much money you make. We're all humans. And if you can't respect that, then you might just be the problem. These are all people with families, with loved ones, with things that they cared about, and their homes. Everything that they cared for was lost. And just because they have a certain number in their bank account, you decide to villainize and demonize and dehumanize and remove any empathy for them. You don't even feel bad for them because they make money. Gavin Newsom has looked like a complete fraud, a complete failure, an example of what not to be as a governor. He has missed the mark on just about everything when it comes to this tragic catastrophe. Throwing his hands up when asked by Anderson Cooper about the hydrants running out of water, and instead punting the ball to local officials, leaving the hot potato onto their lap for that bomb to explode. There's no accountability in California. Not Gavin Newsom, not Karen Bass, not the DEI hire at chief. Nowhere at all. And what's sad is that these people have to suffer because of it. One can only hope that the citizens will change course and vote differently. Vote against mismanagement, vote against negligence, vote against narcissism, vote against selfishness. But what truly matters at the very end of it is that these things are taken as reminders of what good governance looks like and of how tragic mismanagement can be and how fatal it can be. Now, yesterday there was an arson suspect found for the Kenneth fires. The types of people who would even consider starting a fire in an event like this are scum, and they deserve to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and honestly, they should probably be eligible for the death penalty. Stretching social services so far when you know that this is a national emergency, and you only want to add to the fire, no pun intended. You want to add to the list of things that have to be done and cared for. That is sickening. And I hope that whoever did that, they find. I know they have a suspect in custody. Give them due process. Give them a fair trial. Give them everything that we give all of our criminals in this country, and make sure he receives a justice for the things that he has done. So the California fires, lack of brush clearing, there's no water, there's hurricane force winds, the insurance company pulled all their policies, an arsonist was put into custody, and Gavin Newsom, yet again, demonstrates why he is the worst governor in the country. The next story that happened is right across the northern border, as Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, has resigned. And this comes after an entire 10-year governance of Justin Trudeau, of failure after failure after failure after failure after failure. There's high inflation. The housing crisis is a complete joke. In Canada, they are dealing with a lot of immigration, not as much as the United States is, but still worth noting. And one thing that is a little bit worrisome, because we want all countries to kind of see the light and vote the other way, is that the Justin Trudeau resignation might have a Joe Biden effect. Where if you remember, when it was Trump versus Biden, Trump was beating Biden in the polls pretty substantially, like +9 in some polls. But just when Biden dropped out, the race tightened significantly. You only hope that that doesn't happen in this scenario. You only hope that whoever they put in place as the Liberal leader, the Liberal Party leader, doesn't make it a closer race. Because Pierre Poilievre is going to want the biggest majority he can get to kind of push his agenda and to fix Canada. Although Pierre Poilievre is not the perfect candidate, he is a flawed candidate. He is a movement in the right direction of where Canada needs to go. Trudeau's resignation might just be the most selfless thing he's done in politics in his political career so far. I mean, this guy is absolutely horrible at governance. If you thought, maybe not as bad as Gavin Newsom, but definitely up there. The idea that you can just spend public money, accumulate the national, or rack up the national credit card so that your liberal policies will eventually work. You have the medical citizen dying, where the last resort for helping patients isn't to keep trying treatments and avenues like that, but is instead to suggest that people kill themselves through the state nonetheless. It's disgusting. It is draconian. It is Orwellian. There's not really much else to say about the absolute failure that's happened in Canada. We here in the States can only hope that Pierre Poilievre wins the next election and has a sizable majority in government. We'll have to see how the election polls kind of close in the coming months coming into the election, but we will see what happens. But Justin Trudeau resigning, failed governance, inflation, housing crisis, and the new Prime Minister of Canada shortly will be Pierre Poilievre. The next thing that happened this past week is the Mark Zuckerberg free speech little thing that he announced with Meta. This thing was all right, I guess, and to a lot of conservatives, they have a very interesting relationship with people who were once targeting them and who now apparently see the light and want to be better. We can recognize that people do good things, but we should also keep in mind that Justin Trudeau, Mark Zuckerberg said that he's getting rid of the fact checkers and those who are politically biased against conservatives, which is funny because he told us again and again that those people didn't exist. Facebook was 100% bipartisan, nonpartisan, and that there was no bias against conservatives. Now he's saying that he will get rid of the bias against conservatives. So I guess it doesn't exist until it gets fixed. Interesting. Nonetheless, free speech is always good. We shouldn't be, locking down stories from being spread or anything like that, which is what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020. But Mark Zuckerberg and these other tech bros, they will prosecute and they will demonize and they will shadow ban conservatives for years. And the one time that they say, you know what, we were wrong and we're going to go the other way and, forgive us for our sins. And conservatives kind of have an amnesia about it, which is interesting. It's annoying and it's frustrating. But we need to remember that these tech bros have the money to make flippity floppity decisions. And we should keep that in mind. Just think about what would have happened if Kamala won. Do you think you would have been doing this if Kamala won? Do you think that a little bit of this is following the puck, so to speak, of the culture? Now that Trump won the popular vote, he swept the swing states, he got the House, he got the Senate, he got everything. Maybe these tech bros are following the puck, so to speak. They are trying to stay on the good side of the party in power of the way that the culture is moving. I think so. Not that we should not, recognize Zuck for the good deed in opening up the social media networks and stuff like that, but don't be so open-minded that we let these people who once targeted us and who once treated us as Nazis, right? Let's not forget that. Because these people, they follow the wind. Where the wind goes, they go. And if in 2028 a Democrat wins, guess what Mark's going to do? So, yay, I celebrate free speech where it is applied, but I also don't forget the crimes and the sins of those who, beg for forgiveness and want us to forget everything that they had done. It's very important that we don't. We can, at the same time, say, good job, Mark. We appreciate you recognizing the importance of free speech, but we also know what you did to us in the past. And we know what your motive for doing this is. So therefore, while we thank you, we are also keeping a very close eye on what you're doing and your motives. So Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, free speech. Good job, Mark. But you're going to have to do a little bit more than that for a little bit longer than that to really earn the trust of at least me. So thank you, Mark, but not yet. The next story I want to cover is the UK rape gangs. This story is one of the most disgusting stories I've heard probably ever. The depth of this story, of this scandal, is monumental, and I'm afraid that it doesn't even begin to cover what it will end up covering. These stories coming out of the testimonies of the fathers of these daughters is absolutely sickening. It makes you sick to your stomach. It makes my blood boil. It makes me livid and furious. And it is a problem that people like Tommy Robinson have been pointing out for years. But the reason why nothing has been done is because the police and the entire government is terrified of being seen as racist, as Islamophobic, for saving these girls from these gangs. A scandal of this magnitude is large enough to warrant a complete overhaul of the entire system. A complete audit of law enforcement. A complete teardown and rebuilding of agencies altogether. The amount of people who are complicit with this is staggering. And the fact that Keir Starmer is not, pounding the door for an inquiry, for an investigation, is sickening. And the fact that he calls it a far-right thing is tragic. To the victims, and the victims' families, and for the vile subhumans that are doing this. The police we trust to protect and serve. And when these girls and these fathers go to them for help, with evidence in a lot of cases of this happening, they dismiss them. And they say that, they either say that, they say things that encourage the rape, or they say that they can't do anything because they don't want to be racist. They don't want to be seen as racist. This is what happens when you throw around labels all willy-nilly. This is exactly what happens when you call anything and everything racist. Because the problem is that you either dilute the word racism and what it means. If you call someone racist, it kind of just becomes meaningless. Or people are so terrified because the word remains and keeps its meaning that you are scared to death of doing what needs to be done, of holding criminals to account, which is the entire purpose of the law enforcement. I hope that everyone involved finds justice. I hope that justice is served. And I hope that we root this scandal all the way down the chain. Everyone who is complicit goes and faces justice. But the only question is, how far does this go? Who else is complicit? I am kind of not scared, but I am very nervous to see just how far this goes. Because I don't want violence. I really don't. At a magnitude like this, you kind of expect a large revolt from people when this stuff happens. And this is an avoidable thing. People say all the time that, if it was me back in those days, I would have been the one who stood up to slavery. I would have been this. I would have been that. Well, in a lot of ways, every day in modern culture, you have the ability. You have the ability to be that person that you often fantasize about. You have the chance to be the person that blows the whistle on things. It stands up against and through and despite public pressure not to. It's a terrifying, disgusting, vile scandal that I'm afraid what we know now is just a tip of the iceberg. And I only hope that those who did this get justice, the victims get justice, and those who are complicit and involved get shown to the public. And I hope that the UK gets reforms so that something like this doesn't happen again. So, UK rape gang scandal, covered up for decades. Lots of voices coming out years ago, but called racist and Islamophobic for this. Keir Starmer, an abundantly weak, spineless weasel of a leader. And I hope that the victim's family get justice. Last thing I want to cover for this week's episode is the Trump sentencing that just dropped. And the whole thing is a complete joke. There's no jail time, there's no fines, just labels, which is the perfect encapsulation of the left, Democrats. This is the perfect encapsulation of everything that the Democrat Party is. It's no substance. There's no real punishment for Trump. There's no fines. There's no community service. There's no jail time. There's nothing. Just a label. So there's no work. There's just grades. There's no actual substance. There's just titles. In reality, though, there's an interesting question of what Judge Merchan could have done. In reality, this guy is a president, and there's a lot of extenuating circumstances to how you would sentence someone like Donald Trump, the president-elect who will take office in 10 days. But it's you read it, and the whole headline's a joke. It's a joke. They love titles and they love labels. They got Trump on a bullshit case. BS charges. They ran a complete kangaroo court on charges that are misdemeanors that Alvin Bragg pulled out of his ass. He shined it. He put it on his desktop, called it a felony. It's a complete nothing burger. And the fact that they're only leaving with labels is so emblematic of everything the left does. They don't care about substance. They don't care about results. All they care about is labels and feeling good. If Trump committed a heinous crime, then they should be howling for punishment. But instead, they're merely settling for calling the guy a convicted felon. It's laughable. It makes the court system look like a joke. It makes New York look like a joke. And it just underscores that Trump was targeted the whole time. So Trump sentencing, no substance, just labels. What else would you expect from Democrats? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you'd like to support help the channel grow, become a member, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated with all my uploads. Finally, whether you agree or disagree, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I look forward to engaging with you guys in respectful and thoughtful discussions. With that said, I'll see you guys next video. See ya.